Hi, you guys. It's Andrea Olson with Go Diaper-Free. I'm going to be recording podcast 161 with you right now. Welcome to the Go Diaper-Free podcast, where we're all about helping you to potty your baby as early as birth. I'm your host, Andrea Olson, author and mom of 5 babies, all EC'd from birth, all out of diapers by walking. This is episode 161, Rye and EC, Do They Mix? So you can read the written version of today's show over at godiaperfree.com/161, where I'm also going to link to everything I mentioned in today's show, so you don't need to take notes. And I will also be replying to comments over there, so come on by when you're finished. So over the years, I've been approached by many, many parents who are practicing RIE, which is RIE, which is a form of respectful parenting that focuses on not interrupting a baby's play at all. And people have been asking me about whether elimination communication complements RIE or contradicts it. So most of these parents were convinced that EC would be disrespectful and considered an unnecessary interruption to baby's play that would interfere with their proper development per the RIE concept. Well, as you could probably predict, I disagree with this. I actually believe the two practices are quite compatible, so I decided to finally do some research on RIE and lay it all out for y'all. So today I'm going to go through point by point RIE's basic principles to demonstrate where EC and RIE align nicely and where they may not. I also want to introduce you to the lovely idea of RIE, which is also RIE. It's easier to imagine it when you see it. You're like, oh yeah, I've heard about that before. If you haven't heard of it, I hope that you learned something new today. Okay, so first off, what is RIE? So Healthline defines RIE for babies as, quote, RIE, pronounced RIE, stands for Resources for Infant Educarers. This approach was founded in 1978, which is when I was born, by Magda Gerber, a Hungarian immigrant and early childhood educator who lived in Los Angeles. Educarer is a term coined with the idea that parents and caregivers should have respect for even the youngest of infants. End quote. And RIE's own website, rie.org, RIE.org, states, quote, we are a network of infant toddler professionals who are passionately dedicated to empowering parents and caregiving professionals to provide the secure and respectful beginnings children need for a healthy life. I love that. We do this by teaching Magda Gerber's educaring approach that affirms that caring educates children about themselves, and that in the infant toddler years, caregiving is the curriculum. Parents and professionals find that the educaring approach allows them to focus on what matters most, the connection between themselves and the baby in their care. So the connection is the most important thing. In attuning to their baby, they learn to trust their baby and themselves, end quote. So far, so good, right? Let's now go through point by point the basic principles of RIE, which are super interesting. So I hope you stick with it to the end because they're really, really good. And I will relate it to whether EC aligns or not. Principle number 1, respect. Quote, and this is all from the RIE.org website that I linked to on the show notes at godiaperfree.com/161. So principle 1, respect. Quote, we not only respect babies, we demonstrate our respect every time we interact with them. Respecting a child means treating even the youngest infant as a unique human being, not as an object, end quote. If you're listening to my podcast, you guys, then I am 100% certain you agree that respecting our babies as human beings is at the top of the agenda as parents, right? So we're all good there. Principle number 2, the goal of an authentic child. So, quote, an authentic child is one who feels secure, autonomous, competent, and connected. When we help a child to feel secure, feel appreciated, feel that somebody is deeply, truly interested in me, by the way we just look, by the way we just listen, we influence that child's whole personality, the way that child sees life, end quote. It's so beautiful, right? Again, I agree 100%. A lot of EC is observing, listening, and responding. We don't really talk a lot. We do things fairly matter-of-factly, with full respect, and we help the baby feel deeply safe, appreciated, and valuable. So we're all good so far. Principle number 3, trust in the infant's competence. We have basic trust in the infant to be an initiator, to be an explorer, eager to learn what he is ready for. Because of this trust, we provide the infant with only enough help necessary to allow the child to enjoy mastery of her own actions, to allow the child to enjoy mastery of her own actions, end quote. So far so good, but this one is a little bit tricky, you guys. With EC, yes, we trust that the baby is competent, is born ready to use the potty. We know that developmentally they are. But sometimes we don't get any signal from the baby, and the infant or the young toddler does not initiate. Raise your hand if you're with me on that one. The baby does not show us or continually show us what he is, quote, ready for, and it gets confusing because the infant's not the initiator after a point. So this warrants the question, does EC work without signals? Yes, it 100% does, and I've done it with most of my babies because the signals during the 4th through 14th month, signals go away for many babies. They stop signaling to go to the potty. It doesn't mean they're not initiating, though. It doesn't mean that we should stop taking them potty. It just means, to the contrary, we need to continue to potty them despite the drop in signals, just like we would with feeding, sleep, love, and warmth. When they're not actively saying, I am hungry, we're still going to feed them, right? In the newborn months, we learn what our baby needs. Our baby teaches us by crying and then by calming down or even smiling when we finally get it right and get some pee in the potty, not the diaper. Have you noticed that before? Then by month 4, usually, we really have to take some things over because their world is opening right up. They become mobile, they start exploring, and they're fairly distracted day to day. Some babies are more laid back, but more and more babies are like, okay, I'm ready to move, I'm ready to wriggle, I'm ready to explore. Now, I'll ask you this. During all this distraction that starts around months 4 through 6, do we just stop offering food? Do we stop offering a nap when it's time? Do we stop offering love or warm clothing just because our baby stops signaling quite so strongly for it? Nope. We keep it up because we know our baby by now. And then in a few months, baby will start to more directly ask for things once more. It's like a give and take, a team effort. You do some for this part and I'll do some for this part, and then let's join up again to carry it home. So for the second part of this quote, so that's the part of initiating. The second part is, because of this trust, we provide the infant with only enough help necessary to allow the child to enjoy mastery of her own actions. We absolutely do trust our babies, whether they are directly or indirectly communicating their needs and their preferences during certain stages. And we do provide the infant with just enough help necessary to allow them to enjoy this mastery. Per Montessori thinking, and you might have heard me talk about this before, especially if you have my book, Go Diaper-Free, we provide as much assistance as is needed for this stage of development. Simply, no more, no less. Montessori said to never do for a child what she can do for herself. We help and we assist and we set up the environment for pottying until baby can take over, which happens pretty soon after they stop this signaling thing. And think about it. In an intact, I'm going to go off script a little here. In an intact culture, would a child who is crawling need to signal that they need to go to the bathroom? No, they would just walk outside and go to the bathroom where everybody else does, or go right outside the door and then eventually go where everybody else goes. They wouldn't need to signal to us. So this whole part here in principle number 3, we do trust that the infant is competent, but we don't necessarily need them to be an initiator during this time of massive exploration and growth. They are initiators when they're newborns, and they are initiators when they're young toddlers. And a lot of them are during the mobile months, but some of them are a little bit too busy with that. And but we do trust them to be an explorer who's eager to learn what he's ready for, and babies are completely born ready for EC. So there's my little discourse on principle number 3 of Rye. Let's move on to principle number 4, sensitive observation. Quote, our method, guided by respect for the infant's competence, is observation. That's their whole method. We observe carefully to understand the infant's communications and his needs. The more we observe, the more we understand, and we appreciate the enormous amount and speed of learning that happens during the first 2 or 3 years of life. We become more humble, we teach less, and we provide an environment for learning instead, end quote. So with EC, we definitely, obviously advocate observation time. When I teach others how to do infant potty training, that is like the first place we start. In fact, this is core to the practice. This is absolutely aligned, spot on, perfect. And I do want to add that during observation, we're not hovering. We're just noticing, it's just like a state of being of just noticing, because babies in the right environment, an environment for learning, which is like clear from clutter and it's got things that are okay for them to touch and explore and safe enough, we watch them completely blossom. They are born learners, So I love that we also love sensitive observation where you're sensing in, but you're not, I don't want you to take it as hovering. Principle number 5, involving the child in care activities. This is a ding, ding, ding. Okay, so quote, during care activities like diapering, feeding, bathing, dressing, etc., and I would add potty, we encourage even the tiniest infant to become an active participant rather than a passive recipient of the activities. Yay! Parents create opportunities for interaction, cooperation, intimacy, and mutual enjoyment by being wholeheartedly with the infant during the time they spend together anyway. Refueled by such unhurried, pleasurable, caring experiences, infants are ready to explore their environment with only minimal intervention by adults. End quote. I always say, when I talk about EC, that we don't treat our babies like dolls. With EC, they are always active participants in the pottying process. We're not just passively changing a diaper, waiting for it to fill, doing that. They are active participants on our team. We are 100% with the baby during the time we spend with them. We are unhurried and pleasant about it. Yes, we do get busy, and I'm probably one of the busiest people to ever meet. But when we're pottying, it's an opportunity to slow down, right? So this is totally active, not passive, totally interactive, cooperative, and intimate, and obviously mutually enjoyable for sure. I love that one. All right, principle number 6, a safe, challenging, predictable environment. Quote, our role is to create an environment in which the child can best do all the things that the child would do naturally. The more predictable an environment is, the easier it is for babies to learn. As infants become more mobile, they need safe, appropriate space in which to move. Their natural inborn desire to move should not be handicapped by the environment, end quote. I also think about it not being handicapped by a diaper. That's part of their environment, right? Okay, so I suggest picking times to potty your baby and sticking with it. So they talk about consistency and predictability, and this is something that you can do. Even when you do EC part-time, we want to make things as predictable as possible. So we can peg a potty tunity or an opportunity to go to the bathroom on things that are already happening in your everyday routine, especially if you didn't start as a newborn. Like they always wake up from a nap or nighttime, and that's a good time to offer. They're always pooping. And some of you know when your baby's pooping. They're always going to have a meal. So before or after meals are good times where you peg a potty tunity onto things that are already happening. So make it predictable even when you're doing it part-time. I also mentioned this already, but I advocate Montessori thinking, which is all about preparation of the environment where the child can fully thrive, learn, and grow. This teaches independence at a very early age, which benefits you, both of you and everybody you're around. Like when I take my 5 children out to dinner, it benefits all the diners as well. Also, you guys, not having the diaper bulge during diaper-free time completely supports baby's natural inborn desire to move, which means that all parents who practice RIE should technically also practice elimination communication. So if you're on this podcast episode right here because you're interested in RIE and want to learn more, well, guess what? You should probably be doing EC too because it completely supports this desire to move. And there are studies that show that right when you take the diaper off, the baby's gait and walk and probably crawling and rolling all improves immediately. All right, and I think we've got 2 more here. Principle number 7, time for uninterrupted play and freedom to explore. Quote, we give the infant plenty of time for uninterrupted play. Instead of trying to teach babies new skills, we appreciate and admire what babies are actually doing. End quote. So I agree that EC falls in line with this one. We aren't teaching them to need to go potty and let us know. We observe that they shift or they signal, they have a need, that baby is actually already doing this and already has this need, and we help them. Some people who do RIE say never interrupt the baby ever. But let's unpack that. Would you interrupt your baby's play to eat when they signal hunger or you know it's time or they get fussy for it? How about would you interrupt their play to sleep? Like they're getting fussy or they're yawning and they definitely need a nap or you know they do. How about when they're hurt and need comfort? Would you interrupt their play for that? Well, yes, of course. Then interrupt their play to go potty. Going potty, having a potty break, also helps me with these things, by the way, when I have a potty break when I need one. But potty breaks for babies help them focus longer, feel more comfortable when they're playing. It honors their instincts and their basic hygiene needs, the utmost of respect, and it helps babies be less fussy and way happier when they are in play. So how do we interrupt without disrupting? We sweep them up, we do not talk, we do the deed, we give privacy if needed, we set them on the toilet seat reducer and walk out of the room if they're old enough. And that gives them some privacy. They go, and then you pick them up and bring them back to play. You can even bring the thing that they were playing with you. Let's see if Bear needs to go also. And I have a board book on this called Tiny Potty that I highly recommend you check out. I'll link to it in the show notes. But it shows the whole process of leaving, noticing they need to go potty, leaving play, bringing a toy with them, potty companion, and then at the end going back to play. So that's what I think about principle number 7, which is usually the most controversial for those who follow RIE, who say never to interrupt the baby, but you would interrupt yourself to go to the bathroom, wouldn't you? So let's definitely remember that diapers are a new thing. Okay, principle number 8, our last one here is consistency. Quote, we establish clearly defined limits and communicate our expectations to develop self-discipline, end quote. Yes. I often say that doing elimination communication with your baby is your very first opportunity to, quote, discipline your baby, to demonstrate what hygienic boundaries are and how to be in our family. We put our pee and poop in the potty, all of us, and we will help you do that too until you can do it yourself. Clearly defined, communicated, and followed through upon. Consistency. And again, even if it's part-time with a diaper backup, which is sometimes what I did as well. Consistency is key, and it really shows the limits within which freedom and movement and all of that and expression can happen. All right, so in conclusion, I hope that you see that EC is the most respectful form of potty training available. It just is, honoring the baby's innate instincts for cleanliness and dryness, which we're all born with, and our hormones and everything about us support, and that EC aligns so beautifully with RIE, a respectful parenting method that you should definitely check out at rie.org. You can learn a lot more about it. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you practice RIE or something like it with your baby? How do you feel it aligns with EC or not? Please comment over at the show notes at godiaperfree.com/161. I will see you over there. Till next time, happy pottying, y'all. I'm Andrea Olson, and you've been listening to the Go Diaper Free podcast at godiaperfree.com. We'll see you soon. All right, you guys, please comment below about RIE. Have you done it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Does it complement EC or not? We can agree to disagree, or we can agree, whichever. Hit the bell and subscribe, and I'll let you know when the next video is up. Take care.